Welcome back to Velshine Rule. Today, Democratic presidential candidate Elizabeth Warren is campaigning across the very important state of Iowa to make her case to voters. She's a top-tier candidate, but saw her momentum take a serious hit in the polls after she released her plan to pay for Medicare for All last month. Warren sat down this weekend with CNBC's John Harwood in Clinton, Iowa, to talk about her Medicare for All plan and how it differs from her rivals.
Didn't you move in the direction of the Obama view when you offered the two-stage Medicare for All proposal, where basically in your first year you would do what Biden and Buttigieg are talking about on health care and defer the bigger program for the third year?
Actually, what others are offering is not what I'm offering. I'm offering the most help to the greatest number of people in the quickest way possible. So I'm offering full health care coverage to 135 million people can get it for free. They can opt in. Others can buy it for a modest price. I'm offering to lower the age of Medicare down to 50, and anyone, if they want to, can buy in, so that people can experience what full health care coverage feels like, what it looks like.
Now, on Saturday, 7 Democratic candidates participated in the first ever nationally televised presidential candidate forum on public education. More than 1,000 educators and public school advocates watched the candidates discuss their policies and lay out their visions to improve schools and make education accessible for all.
I believe that it is our responsibility as a nation, and will be my responsibility as President of the United States, to make certain that every public school is an excellent public school.
Our schools were designed hundreds of years ago, and it is unfair to expect that we're going to be able to succeed in the 21st century if we don't reimagine what that looks like.
More women drop out of college because of sexual assault and being victimized than any other reason. Not academically, they drop because of that. And so it's time the universities step up.
Universal free pre-K is an absolute requirement for our educational system.
As we look at the anniversary of Sandy Hook, which I know you pointed out earlier, the thought of that teacher, that school aide in the closet with the little boy with their arms around them where they're both shot dead, that shouldn't be happening in our schools.
There is not nearly enough conversation going on about how to support apprenticeships, internships, and CTE so that you can prosper whether you went to college or not.
There is no question that we have got to keep track of every kid in this country to make sure that he or she is reading, doing math well. But there are better ways to doing it than standardized testing.
All right, joining us now, presidential candidate who was at the Education Forum, Democratic Senator Michael Bennet of Colorado, who was a school superintendent in Colorado. So you really connected with that audience because you were talking their language. It was a room full of educators, teachers, people who worked in the school system. But here's the problem, Senator. This is important to everybody, but it doesn't make it to the top of the list of things people are talking about in this election. So how does a guy like you, who knows so much about education, make this a top priority so that people can engage and hear what you've got to offer?
You know, first of all, it was great that you guys did the forum, because here we are months and months and months in the election. There hasn't been a single question on K-12 education asked in a single debate. We are living in a country where our education system is reinforcing the income inequality we have rather than liberating people from it. And this may not show up on TV, but it shows up in every single town hall that I've had in Iowa, New Hampshire, and in South Carolina, as it does in Colorado. And we have to address it as a country. You know, we're living in the 21st century, and when your parents' income determines the quality of your education, something is really desperately wrong with the democracy. So we got to keep chipping away. And by the way, it's not just this issue that's getting crowded out. I mean, we have spent so much time on this Medicare for All that is never going to become the law of the land, instead of focusing on things like my proposal that would cut childhood poverty in America by 40% in the first year if I'm elected president. You know, this is an agenda that I've constructed over the years that actually would be an answer to people in this country who are saying we can't afford health care, we can't afford housing, we can't afford higher ed or early education, even though we're working really hard. We can't afford a middle-class life. That's the agenda Democrats should be running on, not Bernie and Elizabeth ideological conviction about Medicare for all.
Well, you told our colleague Mike Memoli that other candidates have stolen your ideas on health care. Why do you think your message hasn't been breaking through?
Well, I think I'm less known than other candidates. I mean, you know, Joe Biden, that came up in the context of Joe Biden accusing Mayor Pete of stealing his health care idea. And I said, listen, I'm the guy that wrote the damn bill on the public option, so all these mugs are stealing my ideas. But I'm not as well known, and I'm just continuing to chip away at it because I think we need a new generation of leadership in this country. I mean, my God, the Washington Post now has published 6 articles about the war in Afghanistan showing the failure that has been, the complete lack of accountability that we've had, 20 years of war in Iraq, which is a war that, according to the War College, Iran won. It's time to turn the page. And we need a new generation of leadership that can win purple states in this country. Otherwise, we're going to lose again to Donald Trump. And that will be a disaster for the kids that I used to work for in the Denver public schools and poor kids just like them all over this country.
President Trump has slammed the FBI and the Justice Department Inspector General over that report last week, saying that the FBI had cause to open the Russia investigation into the Trump campaign. The former director of the FBI and the CIA, William Webster, wrote an op-ed in the New York Times. It appeared last night, or this morning, saying that the president's thinly veiled suggestion that the director, Christopher Wray, could be on the chopping block disturbs me greatly. The independence of both the FBI and its director are critical and should be fiercely protected by each branch of government. You are on the Intelligence Committee in the Senate. Talk to me about your concern about Chris Wray's future and the way the president is handling this.
Well, I think it's critically important that his independence be protected, and when at a time in American history when there are politicians who are willing to repeat Putin's talking points and say that Ukraine interfered with the 2016 election when that's absolutely false, I can tell you. It's refreshing to have an FBI director who actually tells the truth, which is, no, there is no basis that says the Ukrainians interfered. It was the Russians who interfered. And that's why we should be forcing McConnell to put this protection legislation, election protection legislation on the floor so we can protect America in line with what the FBI director has said. So, I mean, I think that doesn't mean the FBI is perfect, and it's clear that they screwed up some stuff with their FISA application, but there was no political motivation based on their of the investigation. And just because Donald Trump continues to make it so doesn't mean it's true. Just like when Donald Trump says, you know, I didn't actually try to extort Ukraine for my own political advantage, doesn't make that true either.
Here's what is true. From a polling perspective, the impeachment hearings thus far haven't moved the needle in terms of the American public pushing for impeachment. You've spent the last year or so traveling the country. What can you tell us about the mindset of the American people that they're watching testimony after testimony and not changing their tune?
I think the American people are frustrated with the partisan politics in D.C. I think they're frustrated with a government that has brought us those two 20-year wars that I talked about. They're frustrated with an economy that doesn't work well enough for them and their kids. And I would expect on impeachment for the polling to go up and down between now and Election Day. What's critical for us, those of us that believe that the president needs to be held accountable here, is for us to behave in accordance with the rule of law to make sure people understand why it's so important. But I think in the end, we are going to have to beat Donald Trump at the polls. There is no getting around that. That is what is going to happen. McConnell has told us that he's not going to convict President Trump. And so we better nominate somebody who's ready to take on Donald Trump, and we better nominate somebody who can win these purple states. And that's why I'm continuing to run, because I think people are just beginning to make up their minds in the early states. In fact, I saw a poll today that said 76% of Democrats are still unsure, and that's what I'm certainly hearing as I travel.
Hey, MSNBC fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there and click on any of the videos here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more MSNBC for free every day with our newsletters. Just visit msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up now.